Hey guys, tonight we're slipping into the sands of ancient Egypt, where the pyramids of Giza loom under a sky so clear it feels like the stars are whispering secrets. Picture yourself standing on a dune, the air warm and dusty, with those massive stone giants staring you down. They're not just tombs, they're a pharaoh's flex, a cosmic bet against oblivion. And honestly, you probably won't survive this heat without some serious shade, so don't wander too far from the Nile. Before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop your location and local time in the comments. I'm curious where you're chilling tonight. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're in Giza, around 2600 BCE, and the pyramids aren't just big, they're a mystery wrapped in limestone. Why here? Why these monsters of stone? The Great Pyramid, Khufu's baby, is the star of the show, but its neighbors, Khafre's and Menkaure's, aren't slouches either. Together, they scream power, but their purpose runs deeper than ego. Mainstream history says they're tombs, built to launch pharaohs into the afterlife. Khufu's pyramid, with its 2.3 million blocks, was a 20-year grind to ensure his soul could high-five the gods. But there's a quirky twist. No mummy was ever found inside. Some whisper it was looted, but others, fringe folks with tinfoil hats, say it was never a tomb at all, maybe a cosmic battery or alien landing pad. Historians still argue whether the pyramids were purely funerary or had a side hustle in celestial rituals. You wander closer, the sand crunching under your sandals. The Nile's nearby, its waters glinting like liquid silver, and you realize Giza's no random spot. It's a geological sweet spot, firm bedrock to hold the weight, plus a river for shipping stone. The locals tell you the pyramids mirror the stars, specifically Orion's belt, tying Earth to the heavens. This isn't just architecture, it's a love letter to the cosmos. You smirk, thinking modern architects could never pull this off without a crane and a coffee addiction. The scale hits you. Each block weighs as much as your car, and they're stacked with precision that'd make a laser jealous. You're tempted to climb, but the guards look like they'd yeet you into next week. As you circle the base, you hear workers' chants echoing from the past. These weren't slaves, despite what Hollywood says. Most were skilled laborers, fed beer and bread for their sweat. Imagine that, building a wonder of the world on a liquid carb diet. You notice the Sphinx lurking nearby, its lion body and human face daring you to guess its age. Some say it's older than the pyramids, carved when the Sahara was greener. You're not buying the alien theories, but the vibe here feels otherworldly. The sun dips, painting the stones gold, and you wonder how a civilization this old could dream so big. Giza's pyramids aren't just piles of rock. They're a code, a map to something eternal. You're hooked, ready to dig deeper into why these giants rose. You're still in Giza, the pyramid's shadows stretching long as the sun climbs. The air's thick with dust and purpose, and you're zeroing in on one man's obsession, Khufu, the pharaoh who kicked off this stone-stacking madness. His Great Pyramid isn't just a monument. It's his bid to outlast time itself. You can almost see him, all regal with a fake beard, plotting to etch his name into eternity. This guy didn't mess around. His vision turned a desert plateau into a flex for the ages. Khufu's ambition was galactic. Mainstream history pegs him as a god-king, ruling around 2589 BCE, hell-bent on securing his afterlife. The Great Pyramid, his masterpiece, was designed to house his soul and shuttle it to the gods. It's 481 feet tall, was the world's tallest structure for 3,800 years, and took insane planning. Think 20 years of non-stop hustle. You chuckle, imagining Khufu micromanaging like a CEO with a papyrus spreadsheet. But here's the quirky bit. Some fringe theorists claim his pyramid was a giant energy machine, not a tomb. They point to its weird shafts and chambers, saying they channeled cosmic vibes. You roll your eyes. Sounds like a sci-fi pitch, but it's fun to wonder. Historians still argue whether Khufu was a tyrant or a genius. Was he a beloved leader, inspiring devotion, or a despot, forcing his people to haul stones under threat? Evidence leans toward devotion. Workers' villages show they were fed well, not whipped. You're walking where they toiled, dodging imaginary oxen carts, loaded with limestone. The Nile's close, its current ferrying granite from Aswan 500 miles south. You're impressed. Modern logistics could learn a thing or two. Khufu's ego wasn't just personal. It unified Egypt. Building this beast rallied thousands, from quarrymen to priests, all chasing his dream. You pause at the pyramid's base, running your hand over a block smoother than your phone screen. The precision's unreal. Gaps so tight, you can't slip a credit card through. You joke to yourself, if Khufu saw today's construction delays, he'd fire everyone. His vision wasn't just about death, it was about legacy. The pyramid's size screamed, I was here, and I mattered. You get it. Who doesn't want to leave a mark? But Khufu played on God mode, using Egypt's wealth and manpower like a kid with unlimited Legos. As you squint up at the peak, you notice the casing stones, once polished to gleam like a mirror. Most are gone now, looted for medieval Cairo's buildings. You wince, thinking of the irony. Khufu's immortality got recycled into someone else's mosque. Still, his pyramid stands, defiant. You're starting to see why Giza was the stage for this madness. Khufu didn't just want a tomb, he wanted a myth. You're itching to learn how he pulled it off. But for now, you're caught in his spell, wondering what drove a man to build a mountain. You're trudging around Giza's plateau, the pyramids glowing under a midday sun that's roasting your sandals. The Great Pyramid looms, but now you're noticing something wild. Its angles, its placement, feel like they're whispering to the sky. This isn't just a pile of stones. It's a cosmic blueprint, a map to the stars. You're diving into the sacred geometry that makes Giza's pyramids more than tombs. They're Egypt's attempt to sync with the universe. Mainstream history says the pyramid's layout mirrors Orion's belt, a constellation tied to Osiris, god of the afterlife. Around 2600 BCE, the three pyramids, Khufu's, Khafra's, and Menkaura's, were aligned to match those stars, their shafts pointing to key celestial spots. It's like the Egyptians built a GPS for the gods. You smirk, thinking modern astronomers could use a papyrus or two. But here's the quirky twist. Some fringe folks swear the alignment's too perfect, hinting at lost tech or even extraterrestrial architects. You're not sold. Sounds like a late-night podcast gone wild. But the math is spooky precise. Historians still argue whether this stellar setup was purely symbolic or had practical ritual use. Did priests climb those shafts to commune with stars, or was it all for show? You're circling Khafra's pyramid now, its peak still capped with smooth limestone, glinting like a beacon. The geometry's obsessive. The base is a near-perfect square, the sides sloped at 51.5 degrees, matching some cosmic ratio tied to pi. You joke to yourself, did they have protractors or just divine vibes? The Sphinx nearby stares, like it knows the answer but won't spill. You notice the plateau's layout isn't random. The pyramids sit on a grid, oriented to true north with accuracy that shames modern compasses. The Nile's curve frames it all, tying earth to water to sky. You're sweating, imagining priests in linen robes plotting star charts while you're stuck without sunscreen. The Egyptians believed order, May-at, held the universe together, and these pyramids were May-at in stone, a plea for cosmic balance. You get why they obsessed over angles. One wrong cut, and the gods might hit snooze on the afterlife. As you shade your eyes, you spot the horizon where Orion rises. The pyramids feel alive, like they're still tracking the stars. You're starting to grasp their deeper game, not just tombs, but portals to eternity, built to keep the cosmos happy. You laugh, thinking if your Wi-Fi aligned this well, you'd never buffer. Giza's geometry isn't just pretty, it's a love song to the heavens, and you're ready to see who sang it loudest. You're back on Giza's dusty plateau, the pyramids towering like silent giants. But now you're not just gawking, you're joining the sweat-soaked workers who built these beasts. The air hums with chants and the clink of copper tools. You're diving into the labor force, the heartbeat of Khufu's dream, and it's not what you expected. These folks aren't chained-up prisoners. They're loyal Egyptians, fueled by faith and flatbread, hauling stones to honor their pharaoh. Mainstream history tells us about 20,000 workers, masons, quarrymen, haulers, built the Great Pyramid over 20 years, around 2589 BCE. They lived in nearby villages, ate well, and got medical care per archaeological finds. You're impressed. Modern contractors could learn from this HR game. But here's the quirky bit. Graffiti inside the pyramid, hidden in chambers, brags about crews like Khufu's drunkards. You chuckle. Imagine naming your team after Happy Hour. Historians still argue whether these workers were full-time pros or seasonal farmers pitching in during the Nile's flood. Did they toil out of love for Khufu, or was it taxes paid in sweat? You're trudging beside a sled now, watching a limestone block slide over greased logs. It's heavier than your car, and you're glad you're not pulling. The workers shout, "Heave for Horus, their god of the sky." You notice their camaraderie. They're not just building a tomb, they're crafting a legacy. Some are locals, others from distant villages, all united by belief that Khufu's afterlife secures Egypt's stability. You joke to yourself, if your boss asked you to stack boulders for eternity, you'd ghost the job. The Nile's nearby, ferrying granite from Aswan. You see boats unload, marveling at the logistics. No spreadsheets, just vibes and ropes. Women weave mats for sleds. Kids run water to the crew. It's a community, not a chain gang. You're dodging oxen, their dung ripe in the heat, and you wince. Ancient OSHA wasn't a thing. Yet the worker's skill shines. Blocks are cut so precise, you can't wedge a papyrus between them. You're starting to get why they poured their souls into this. It wasn't just duty, it was devotion to a divine king and a cosmic order. As the sun dips, you spot a worker carving his name into a stone, his tiny rebellion against oblivion. You get it. Who doesn't want to be remembered? These laborers didn't just build pyramids, they built Egypt's Subi. You're ready to see how they managed without modern tech, but for now, you're awed by their grit and glue. You're still at Giza, the pyramid's edges sharp against a blazing sky. But now you're geeking out over how these ancient Egyptians pulled off a construction job that'd make modern engineers sweat. You're surrounded by the clatter of copper chisels and the creak of wooden sleds. diving into the tools and techniques that turned a desert into a wonder. Forget cranes or bulldozers. These folks built immortality with brains, brawn, and some seriously clever hacks. Mainstream history says the Great Pyramids, 2.3 million blocks, were quarried, hauled, and stacked using basic tools: copper chisels, dolerite hammers, and wooden levers. Ramps, probably spiraling or zigzagging, helped lift stones, with sleds greased by water or oil to slide them. You're picturing it, and it's wild. A 481-foot mountain built without a single power drill. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some fringe types claim the Egyptians used sound waves to float stones. You snort. Sounds like a DJ gig gone wrong. But the real methods are impressive enough. Historians still argue whether the ramps were internal, external, or a mix, and how workers aligned blocks with such eerie precision. You're crouching near a quarry now, watching a mason split limestone with a wooden wedge and mallet. The block pops free, square as your phone screen. You're tempted to try, but your arms are screaming, "Nope." Nearby, workers drag a sled loaded with granite, chanting to keep rhythm. The sled's runners smoke from friction, and you're grateful for the Nile's muddy water cooling the path. You joke to yourself, if your IKEA furniture was this precise, you'd never curse an Allen wrench again. The engineering's next level. The pyramid's base is level to within an inch across 13 acres. Try that with a smartphone app. You spot surveyors using plumb bobs and sighting tools, eyeballing angles like cosmic snipers. The casing stones, once mirror smooth, reflected sunlight so bright you'd need shades. You wince, thinking of the polisher's sore hands. And those star-lined shafts, they're so exact, you wonder if the gods sent a blueprint. The logistics are nuts. Granite hauled 500 miles from Aswan, limestone from nearby Tura, all timed to the Nile's floods. As you dodge a rolling log, you marvel at the teamwork. No blueprints, no CAD software, just experience and grit. You're starting to see why Giza's pyramids stump us. They're proof humans can do the impossible with simple tools and big dreams. You're itching to explore the beliefs behind this madness, but for now, you're lost in the genius of their gear. You're lingering at Giza, the pyramid stones warm under your fingers as the sun dips low, casting long shadows that feel like they're guarding secrets. You're not just here for the architecture anymore. You're diving into the spiritual fuel behind these giants, the Egyptians' obsession with gods and the afterlife. The air hums with an eerie calm, like the desert itself knows these pyramids were built to cheat death and dance with the divine. Mainstream history tells us the pyramids were cosmic launch pads for pharaohs, designed to guide their souls to the afterlife. Around 2600, BCE, Egyptians believed Khufu's spirit would climb through the Great Pyramid's star-pointing shafts to join Osiris, the god of rebirth. The pyramid was his VIP pass to eternity, packed with spells, carved into chambers for extra insurance. You smirk, thinking it's like leaving post-it notes for the gods. But here's the quirky bit. Some fringe theorists say the pyramids were resurrection machines, using mystical vibes to recharge souls. You're not buying it. Sounds like a spiritual smoothie blender, but it's wild to ponder. Historians still argue whether the pyramids were only for pharaohs or served broader rituals, like blessing the land's fertility. You're slipping into a priest's sandals now, imaginary linen robe, flapping as you trace the pyramid's base. The Egyptians saw death as a pit stop, not a finish line. Their gods, Ra, the sun, Anubis, the jackal-headed embalmer, demanded order, and the pyramid was that order in stone. You picture Khufu's mummy, wrapped tighter than your burrito, prepped to wake up in the field of reeds, a paradise with endless Nile views. You joke to yourself, if your afterlife prep was this intense, you'd need a nap first. The Sphinx looms nearby, its gaze locked on the horizon where Ra rises. You feel the weight of belief here. Every block, every angle was a prayer to keep chaos at bay. Priests chanted, offerings burned, all to ensure Khufu's soul didn't get lost in cosmic traffic. You're dodging imaginary incense clouds, marveling at how faith drove thousands to stack stones for decades. The pyramid's chambers, like the king's, feel like portals, their granite walls whispering promises of eternity. You're starting to get it. This wasn't just a tomb. It was a bridge to the gods, built to make sure Egypt's king never faded. As twilight paints the pyramids purple, you realize the afterlife wasn't just personal. It was political. A pharaoh's successful journey ensured Egypt's stability. You're ready to see how this spiritual flex shaped the land's economy, but for now, you're caught in the glow of a culture that bet everything on forever. You're still wandering Giza's sun-scorched plateau, the pyramids standing like stone titans. But now you're peeling back the curtain on something less mystical. Cold, hard economics. These aren't just spiritual flexes. They're Egypt's way of shouting, we've got wealth, manpower, and unity to burn. You're diving into how building the pyramids was a power play, a massive flex of resources that glued a nation together under Khufu's rule. Mainstream history says the Great Pyramid, built around 25 to 89 BCE, was a national project that showcased Egypt's riches. It took millions of limestone and granite blocks, hauled by thousands of workers, fed by a supply chain stretching from Aswan to the Nile Delta. This wasn't just construction, It was a GDP-sized statement of dominance. You're chuckling, thinking Khufu's budget meetings must have been wild. No Excel, just papyrus and panic. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some fringe folks claim the pyramids were built to store grain, not souls, citing biblical tales. You're skeptical. Sounds like a granary with serious overkill, but it's a fun curveball. Historians still argue whether the pyramids drained Egypt's economy or supercharged it by creating jobs and trade. You're trudging past a workers' village now, mud brick huts buzzing with life. These folks weren't just hauling stones. They were eating beef, fish, and beer, supplied by a network of farms and fisheries. The Nile's your lifeline, ferrying supplies like an ancient Amazon Prime. You're dodging imaginary donkey carts, marveling at the logistics. Bakers, brewers, and butchers kept this machine running. You joke to yourself, if your office had this much free beer, you'd never quit. The Pyramid Project employed thousands, from quarrymen to scribes, knitting Egypt's regions into one purpose. It was like a national team-building retreat, but with 2.3 million blocks. The wealth wasn't just in stone. Building Giza showed Egypt could mobilize labor, food, and tech without blinking. You're picturing Khufu's advisors, sweating over copper reserves for tools, while merchants haggled for Lebanese cedar. The pyramids were a billboard. Mess with us, and we'll bury you in organization. You're impressed. Modern mega-projects could learn from this hustle. Even the Sphinx, staring smugly, feels like a bonus flex. Egypt saying, yeah, we carved a lion man too. No big deal. As you squint at the horizon, you realize this economic engine wasn't just about ego. It unified a sprawling land, turning farmers into builders and villages into supply hubs. The pyramids didn't just house souls, they built a nation. You're curious about the mysteries still hiding in these stones, but for now, you're awed by Egypt's ancient flex of power and coin. You're back on Giza's windswept plateau, the pyramids looming like stone riddles under a sky that's starting to blush with dusk. The air's cooler now, but the questions burn hotter. You're not here to admire the view anymore. You're poking at the mysteries still locked in these ancient giants. How did the Egyptians really build them? Why do some details defy explanation? You're diving into the unsolved puzzles that keep scholars and conspiracy nuts up at night. Mainstream history says the Great Pyramid was built with ramps, sleds, and copper tools around 25 and 89 BCE, but the how-to manual's long gone. We've got clues, quarry marks, workers' graffiti, but no blueprints. The blocks, some weighing 80 tons, were stacked with sub-millimeter precision. You're scratching your head, wondering how they nailed it without GPS. Here's the quirky bit. Some fringe theorists swear aliens or lost tech, like anti-gravity gizmos, did the heavy lifting. You're rolling your eyes. Sounds like a blockbuster pitch. But the gaps in evidence make you pause. Historians still argue whether internal ramps, counterweights, or even water-filled shafts were used to move stones. No one's cracked the code. You're clambering around the base now, dodging imaginary scaffolding. The king's chamber, deep inside, has granite beams so massive you can't fathom their transport. Were they dragged 500 miles from Aswan? Or did the Nile hide a secret barge trick? You joke to yourself, if your moving company was this good, you'd tip double. Then there's the pyramid's alignment. True north within a fraction of a degree. You're picturing surveyors with ropes and stars, but the accuracy feels almost supernatural. The shafts pointing to Orion and Sirius? Too perfect for coincidence. Yet no one agrees on their purpose. You spot the Sphinx, its weathered face teasing you with silence. Some say it's older than the pyramids, carved when Giza was lush. Water erosion marks on its base fuel wild theories. But you're not diving down that rabbit hole. The real mystery's closer. How did workers cut stone so smoothly? Copper tools seem too soft, yet they did it. You're tempted to grab a chisel and try, but you'd probably chip your ego instead. Every answer spawns more questions, like why the Great Pyramid's interior is so sparse. No hieroglyphs, no treasures. Was it looted or never filled? As stars prick the sky, you feel the weight of the unknown. Giza's not just stone, it's a puzzle box daring you to solve it. You're ready to see how these mysteries shaped Egypt's legacy, but for now, you're lost in the thrill of what we'll never fully know. You're still at Giza, the pyramid silhouettes softening in the twilight, their stones whispering stories that echo beyond the desert. You're not chasing construction secrets now. You're tracing how these monuments shaped Egypt's soul, weaving themselves into its identity like threads in a timeless tapestry. The air feels heavy with legacy, and you're diving into how Giza's pyramids became more than tombs. They became the heartbeat of a civilization's pride. Mainstream history says the pyramids, especially Khufu's Great Pyramid, built around 2589 BCE, cemented Egypt's image as a powerhouse. They weren't just for pharaohs. They symbolized a culture obsessed with eternity, order, and divine connection. Temples, festivals, and pilgrimages sprang up around Giza, making it a spiritual hub for centuries. You're grinning, thinking Egypt's tourism board had it easy. Nothing says, "Visit us," like a 481-foot triangle. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some fringe stories claim the pyramids were ancient power plants that fueled Egypt's mystique, not just its religion. You're skeptical. Sounds like a steampunk fantasy. but their cultural pull is undeniable. Historians still argue whether the pyramids unified Egypt's people or widened the gap between elites and commoners who toiled for royal glory. You're strolling past the Sphinx now, its gaze fixed on eternity. Imagine ancient festivals here, priests chanting, locals offering bread to the gods, kids gaping at the stone giants. The pyramids weren't just buildings, they were propaganda, shouting Egypt's might to rivals like Nubia or Mesopotamia. You joke to yourself, if your country had a logo, it'd be these pointy beasts. Giza's monuments inspired art, myths, and even later tombs, like the Valley of the Kings. Every pharaoh after Khufu chased that same vibe. Build big, live forever. The legacy's not just ancient. You're picturing medieval traders gawking, Renaissance explorers sketching, and modern tourists snapping selfies. The pyramids gave Egypt its brand, a cultural anchor through invasions and empires. They're why you know Pharaoh means power, why mummies haunt your Halloween. You're dodging imaginary crowds, marveling at how Giza's stones outlasted Rome, Greece, and your last phone upgrade. The Nile glints nearby, a reminder that Egypt's lifeblood flowed through this project, tying land, people, and gods into one story. As moonlight bathes the plateau, you feel the pyramids' grip on time. They're not just Egypt's past, they're its mirror, reflecting a culture that bet everything on legacy. You're ready to ponder why they still captivate us. But for now, you're wrapped in the glow of a nation that built its name in stone. You're standing on Giza's quiet plateau, the pyramids glowing faintly under a star-streaked sky, their edges softened by night. The desert's cool now, and you're not chasing pharaohs or puzzles anymore. You're reflecting on why these ancient giants still grab us by the soul. They're more than stone. They're a mirror for humanity's dreams. And you're diving into what makes Giza's pyramids timeless wonders that keep us staring thousands of years later. Mainstream history crowns the Great Pyramid, built around 2589 BCE, as the last standing wonder of the ancient world. Its scale, 2.3 million blocks, 481 feet tall, stuns, but its survival through earthquakes, looters, and time is the real flex. You're smirking, thinking modern skyscrapers might crumble while these stones just yawn. Here's the quirky bit. Some fringe folks say the pyramids emit energy fields that draw us like spiritual magnets. You're not signing up for that yoga retreat, but their pull, part mystery, part majesty, is real. Historians still argue whether their enduring fame comes from engineering, symbolism, or just raw audacity. Was it Khufu's genius or Egypt's obsession with eternity that hooked us? You're circling the Great Pyramid's base, sandals crunching on sand. Look up. It's not just a tomb, it's a dare to dream bigger. The precision, blocks aligned to true north, shafts tracking stars, makes you feel small, yet inspired. You joke to yourself, if your life goals were this solid, you'd be unstoppable. Giza's pyramids speak to everyone. Kings wanting immortality, tourists chasing selfies, scientists hunting answers. They're universal, like love or Wi-Fi. The Sphinx, half eroded but smug, seems to nod. Told you we'd last. Why do we care? They're proof humans can defy limits. No cranes, no computers, just grit and vision. You're picturing ancient workers, their beer-fueled chants, and modern drones buzzing for Nat Geo specials. The pyramids bridge then and now, whispering, "You're not so different." They've survived pharaohs, caliphs, and TikTok trends, yet still feel alive. You're awed by their silence. It's louder than any TED Talk. They don't just stand, they challenge you to leave a mark, to build something that outlives your playlist. As the night deepens, you lean against a stone, its coolness grounding you. The stars above mimic Orion, like they did for Khufu. You're starting to drift, the pyramids fading into a soft hum of history. They're not just Egypt's, they're yours, ours, a reminder that even in a chaotic world, we can create something eternal. You're ready to let their shadow lull you into dreams. Now, let's ease you towards sleep. The pyramids glow, a gentle backdrop. Picture the desert stretching wide, the Nile murmuring nearby, its waters catching moonlight like a silver thread. The air's soft, carrying whispers of ancient chants, but they're fading, blending with the hum of your fan. You're safe here, wrapped in the calm of a story that stood for millennia. The pyramids don't demand your awe tonight. They're content to watch over you, silent sentinels of a world that dreamed big. Feel your breath slow, each inhale pulling you deeper into rest. The stars above Giza are yours to keep, twinkling promises of tomorrow. Let the sand, the stone, the vastness carry you off, drifting into a place where time doesn't rush. Sleep now, cradled by history's quiet embrace, and let the pyramids stand guard. Sweet dreams.